Hey everyone, welcome to Startup Success Checklist. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Miriam Dorset. I'll be moderating our conversation today. I'm broadcasting live from Miami, Florida, and I'm joined today by an all-star panel who I will allow them to go ahead and introduce themselves. Julie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, thank you. Enjoying Global Entrepreneurship Week for sure.
Good.
How are you doing? Oh.
Hello?
We can hear you, but it's breaking up a little bit. I will pop over.
Can you hear me?
Kind of. It was better before. Now it's not so good. I'm going to pop over to Pedro for an introduction.
What's up, Mary? I'm excited to be here for the Startup Success Checklist. Oh, I get the full screen. Okay, that's cool. I've been an entrepreneur in South Florida for maybe 19 years, and I'm here as the now CEO of Navigate. We are sort of a new kind of accelerator, and we help early stage startups launch, grow, and get funding ready. So dealing with startup success is what I do every day, and it's a lot of fun. I love it. Hopefully we get to drop some wisdom today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining today, Pedro, by the way. Really appreciate you taking the time. Also, if you could introduce Navigate briefly to us, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah, Navigate is fairly new. We launched about 3.5, 4 months ago. And like I said, we kind of fit in this intermediate space because we're earlier than a lot of the accelerators that exist. So while there are a lot of accelerators out there, sometimes the requirements to get in are pretty stringent. But we kind of exist in that space before. So you could be pre-product, you could be pre-revenue, you could be just an ideation phase. I would say probably 30% of our customers or startups that we work with are in the ideation pre-revenue phase. And we help sort of plot what startup success looks like in the early stages. And because we work with scalable startups, usually that means plotting sort of a path towards capital. So what sort of traction you need to show in order to get investors interested and get that first round, whether it's a first like early angels round or a seed round, or if you already passed the seed, the path to a Series A. We help through marketing guidance. We help through go-to-market strategy. We help through financial planning. Pretty much, obviously pitch deck and pitch practice. A lot of what early stage startups need help with. And I think we get seen as like a co-founder that doesn't take any equity, and you can fire whenever you want. So it's kind of the best option for founders.
Yeah, that sounds great. And congratulations on everything you're doing. It's great to have you supporting.
Thank you.
Let's pop over to Uri. Great to see you, Uri. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Miriam. This is a great event. Honored to be a part of it. My name is Uri Yudewitz. I'm the founder of advisory.co. And what we do is we help founders as they're going through business development initiatives. We help them go through that uncharted territory. Sometimes that's raising capital. Sometimes it's helping them generate revenue. And we are excited to partner in the Miami ecosystem to help great founders scale and thrive.
Love that. And you guys are based north of Miami, which is great because this is Product in South Florida. So we're trying to kind of like bring the whole thing together.
I try to have a foot in each of the tri-counties if I can. So I'm based in Boca Raton, but I grew up in the Aventura area, have family all over Broward County. So yeah, South Florida represent, not just Mr. 305. We'll take all the counties.
Perfect. Yeah, because each county is great and unique, and we have awesome tech scene from all the way up, all the way down. With advisory, how do you want to tell the story how we met, or should I tell the story how we met?
I would love for you to tell that story, and then I'll just chime in and talk over you if I think that you're getting it wrong.
Okay, and it's Uri, or can you pronounce it for me one more time?
Like Corey without the C. That's if you're ever ordering me
Uri.
a drink at Starbucks, it's Corey without the C.
Okay, Uri.
There you go.
So Uri and I met on the Entre app, correct? That's how we connected.
Right. Yep.
Entre. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a great app. Shout out to Entre, one of our partners and friends here in the tech scene. We've thrown a lot of events for them when we were in real life, and now they have transitioned to lots of virtual events. So check them out. Entre, join entre.com. I'll put the link in. Welcome. I'm so glad to see some people have chimed in or viewing us live on the Product 10 page. Welcome, guys. Drop a note in the comment to say hello to Uri, Pedro, and Julie. Julie, how's your audio going?
I believe it's better. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, good. So my name is Julie Nakache. I'm the founder and of a company called eyewearforall. We sell prescription glasses and sunglasses, fashionable collection of eyewear at affordable prices. We are based in downtown Miami, and we're also a mobile optical. We go to different businesses and co-working in Miami, and we showcase our product, and we give people the opportunity to get their prescription glasses within 24 hours, and they get their glasses delivered straight to their office. So we give them the opportunity to get prescription glasses at an affordable prices. We start at $49 frame and lenses included. And, it's simple, it's easy, it's fashionable glasses. And that's why we're different from the competitor. We have the opportunity to, offer good quality product at affordable prices and delivered in record time. And it's been right now almost 3 years. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we met at the Cambridge Innovation Center. Yeah. And I bought some glasses from you, which I get compliments on all the time.
Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for coming in. Hi, Anna. Thanks for chiming in. Please continue to comment in your questions for this all-star panel. We've got Julie, Uri, and Pedro. So let's start off. So Pedro and Uri, you two know each other. How do you two know each other?
I mean, I think we've met in passing. Probably we've been on other panels together because we talk about similar topics. But I don't think we've spent like any dedicated time together. Have we, Uri?
Yeah, I think in a previous life of yours, maybe in a previous role, we got connected. We probably met at Startup Expo or Emerge, probably Emerge. And and we do kind of run in a similar space. And, I think we both share the good feeling and good vibes of wanting to help great founders get their companies to the next level, whatever that may be, whether that's starting them super early where Pedro likes to take them from and get them a little bit over the hump. And I take them a little bit later, but either way, we love the Miami ecosystem and just want to see great people succeed.
Agreed.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming together today. Let's dive in. So I'm a startup founder. Julie's a startup founder. Really, this is great. We've got Pedro, Uri, you guys are here to give us some tips and share with everyone who's watching live. And also, Pedro, you've been a startup founder yourself multiple times. So during this time, the first things I want to kind of focus on is, in my opinion, to be successful, starting a startup, you have to take care of yourself. That has to be like your first thing first. Make sure that you're good, your mental health. I always tell people my priorities in life are number 1, myself, number 2, my family, and number 3, my business. And that's it. So Pedro, do you agree with me on that? And if yes, what are you currently doing for kind of self-care type of practice?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. I definitely didn't, I think most entrepreneurs don't put themselves first. I think if you talk like a traditional entrepreneur, it's like, yes, you put family first and then business and then like other things and then you. Unfortunately, I think that's what we tend to do sometimes because we're very other focused. But I'm older now, so I've got to take care of myself a little bit better. And I think that the work that we do, we meaning like me and Uri, a lot of what we do in addition to like instructing, and Uri, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like a little bit of a therapy aspect. A lot of the founders come to us and they're like, hey, I'm trying to get to the next step. I'm struggling. And you become like partners and you become like friends. And there's a little bit of it that's a little bit therapeutic for them. But one of the things I learned is that every therapist is like required to see a therapist because you end up like absorbing everything that everybody's doing. So one of the things that I do for myself is the same thing that, therapists do, is like, okay, I make sure that I'm talking to somebody about all of these, we work with, let's say like 30 or 40 companies at a time. And I end up taking on all those problems. So I've got to let those problems go and put them out there. Otherwise, I get stuck in my head trying to solve growth for 30 different companies and it becomes very difficult. So I think therapy is a great option. I think it's good to talk to people. It's good to have somebody that you can connect with, whether it's like an official therapist or like, a peer group that actually functions that same way. And then I think, physical health. I sit behind a computer, especially now with like Zoom. It's like Zoom calls, 7 hours a day. So it's a good time to force yourself to kind of get out and go to a socially distanced gym or something like that, and kind of keep that ritual of mental health and physical health to try to keep from going crazy, I think, in general.
Great. So you're going to the gym, potentially talking to people. I think those are really good. Julie, are you doing anything yourself for self-care during this time, or just along your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yes, it's not easy, and to put yourself first, that's definitely for sure. But I would say spend some quality time with family and friends. As Pedro said, do your own therapy by, exchanging, talking to friends, and try to take care of yourself, like exercise, or at least try to walk at least like an hour a day just by yourself with your earpods. Just put a podcast or some music, try to clear your mind. I think it's very important. Yeah. Yes.
Indeed. So, Julie, I'll stick with you for a minute because you're coming international. You're an entrepreneur from overseas. And I wanted to see if you would share a little bit about your story with that, and if you've noticed any differences with being an entrepreneur over the pond versus here.
Yes, so I come from France, and there's definitely a big difference between France and the US. I would say that in the US, it's easier to meet people. The networking, it's easier as well. You can build some professional relationship easily, way more easily than in France, because in France, you already have to be established. You already need to have the network, the contacts. It's easier to start everything from scratch in the US. And in France, it's a little more difficult, I would say. People would have to take you seriously. Here, no matter where you're coming from, your age or whatever, they take you more seriously and they were more open-minded. So I feel like it's easier to build everything from scratch and get a good networking compared to France. Yes.
Nice. Well, that's really good to know. I love to hear that. Uri, what about your thoughts with that? You're internationally experienced, and South Florida has so many different people and cultures. Have you noticed anything different from international entrepreneurship starting up versus people that are starting up and they're from here in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of business in the Middle East, and one of the things that stands out is sort of how sort of the culture of what's acceptable or what the norms are when it comes to business. I think here, and maybe this is COVID related, I don't know. I think a lot of people took the time over the last few months to kind of reset and to become a little bit more emboldened in what they can or cannot do. They've gone out to sort of shoot their own shot, right? And so I think here in our culture, we see that from training like, from Gary Vee and Dave Meltzer and Tony Robbins and Joan and others who, really kind of embody that and teach. So I've seen that definitely here in South Florida, where I think some other cultures are a little bit more timid when it comes to reaching out to things that maybe they don't think they could necessarily attain. I will say also, just to piggyback on the self-care question, that I saw a tweet a few weeks ago. It might even have been Pedro who said that a founder's job is to maintain 95% of a founder's job is to maintain their mental status. And so that goes into everything from managing your teams, raising capital, hiring people, interacting with potential clients, et cetera. All of that, if your mental state is out of whack, it's going to make it really difficult for you to focus at the highest levels. And so I think that's also a really important thing that we see down here. We have people, Keith Raboy just said the other day, he's leaving San Francisco, big VC. He might come to Miami. He's talking about how cosmopolitan and how great the community is down here for the mixing of different cultures and vibes. And I think that speaks really high volumes for what we're building down here as an ecosystem.
Indeed. So is there anything that you're doing specifically or that you encourage founders to do to take care of their mental health and well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you the two things that are important to me. I am definitely guilty of having put on, as they say, the COVID-19. It's not the freshman 15. That one's done. We all did that in college. And now you've got your COVID-19. I definitely put it on at the beginning and needed to find a routine. And so my wife and I have taken up a 5:30 a.m. socially distanced gym routine. We're trying to get back on that track, but that was working for us for a couple of weeks. The other thing that's really important to me is Sabbath. All of my clients, all of my collaborators, people that I work with know that Friday at about 5:30 now that we changed the clocks, I shut down. I'm done for 25 hours. No electronics, no phone, no work, nothing. It's purely family time, purely, rest, relax, have a couple of good meals, be with the family, be with friends, and kind of disconnect from everything else that's going on. I highly recommend, even if it can't be a full 24 hours, if you can take 12 hours, whatever it may be, disconnect from tech, disconnect from your business, take a step back. I highly recommend that. And the third thing would be, there are a lot of peer groups that are now starting to happen where somebody sort of moderates in sort of a group therapy type session. Regina Martinelli, who I met through Upstream or Founders and Funders, I think, runs a group like that. She's phenomenal. And she's not the only one out there, but she happens to be doing a really good job with about 10 to 12 founders at a time in super intense 3-hour sessions. And I think same kind of thing, if you can just dedicate time to focusing on the mental aspects of the balancing, being an entrepreneur, running your business, having your family obligations, friends, et cetera. I think that's a tremendous thing as well.
Yeah. I tell you what, I went ahead and turned off my phone for my birthday on Sunday. My birthday was Saturday, but I turned off on Sunday. And I had severe anxiety for half the day. It was really bad. Very scary. Just being honest, I put into the chat.
Try it 3 times.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I feel like I need to do it more to get comfortable with it, because every few hours, minutes, I don't know, I would reach for my phone and it would literally be off. And I'd be like, what? Oh, yeah, that's right. And I also turned on that timer thing that the new iOS comes with, where it kicks you off your apps after 10 p.m. That thing's crazy. I'm like, ignore. So, but it's important. Definitely chime in, those that are joining us, watching, how you feel about disconnecting for 24 hours, no devices. Have you tried it? Would you try it? Does that, even the thought of that, give you anxiety? Kind of with that, I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, considering pandemic has happened, but there's been a lot of shifts in the world as a result of the pandemic, the future of food, the future of work, working remotely, but a lot of these things, education, there were shifts going on prior. So what kind of things, as you're building a startup, first, what do startup founders kind of need to be thinking about long term with the shifts that you're seeing, and also kind of what do you think brought us to this point? I don't want to start with that.
I don't know. If nobody else wants to go, I'll throw some thoughts out there.
Thanks, Pedro.
Yeah, I saw a quote the other day. I think it was like an article title on Medium, and it said this, like the pandemic or the coronavirus time isn't something that entrepreneurs have to survive. It's something that we're made for. Like this is the time that entrepreneurs should be looking at to sort of see like, okay, what innovations exist? How is the world going to look differently? Because it's never, even when like the vaccine comes out or whatever the next steps are, like it's never just going to go back to what it was before. There will be some kind of new thing. And that's really what innovation is for, is like when there's disruption, when there's like forced innovation, this is when we need to be figuring out what's next and observing everything we can observe and reading everything we can read in our industry to make sure that we can be sort of at that bleeding edge of whatever's next and ready to sort of take advantage of that. It's that anti-fragile, resilient sort of mindset where you build companies so that they can actually benefit from difficulty and not just survive difficulty. So I think, smart entrepreneurs are really looking at this as opportunity, and it feels wrong to say it. Nobody wants to feel, this is obviously like, there's a lot of people that are sick and there's a lot of people that are not surviving the situation. So you don't want to come across as like, this cold capitalistic person, right? And say, oh yeah, I'm taking advantage, I'm being opportunistic. But at the same time, that is what innovation is about. It's about looking at, the time we're at and trying to, see what's coming next and building something that is going to benefit. I think most entrepreneurs have a desire to create something that helps people, right? So we're being opportunistic, but not opportunistic to make money. It's opportunistic to how do we solve this problem now that people maybe are having, and it's more pressing now than it was before, or it's being experienced differently, or whatever it is. Our goal is to solve problems, and this is an opportunity to solve problems in a more unique and innovative way. And I think, like I said, smart entrepreneurs are kind of absorbing everything they can and applying that to what they're creating to make their companies and startups, more resilient and actually take advantage of this.
I agree with you. And so I'm just thinking, okay, so typically it takes a startup, how many years would you say to start seeing success?
Well, what does success mean?
Okay, making money.
Well, I mean,
revenue positive.
Revenue. So if you're talking about a scalable startup that's not necessarily aiming for profit, we see startups that are making money in month 1, month 2, month 3. Now, profit is a whole different story. Scalable startups are usually focused on growth, and small businesses are usually focused on profit. So kind of, I think nowadays, you're trying to kind of land in the middle there somewhere where maybe you're not taking as much profit as you could, but you're also growing a little bit faster than a small business. And unless you're very heavily even if you are very heavily capitalized, companies are being very smart with how they're kind of managing a burn rate. But I think revenue on a startup should come very soon. I mean, I push my companies that they should be driving revenue within 2 months or 3 months. That's how long it takes to put an MVP together. That's how long it takes to put a Facebook campaign together and a basic, simple website. And you should be validating that product. Can you get somebody to pay for it? If you can't, let's rework it. Let's try it again. But let's do, month 4, let's relaunch. What do we have? Do we have people interested? Is the campaign working? Did you get somebody to pay for it? So I like to get the first dollar within 3 months. And that means you've got a not so great MVP, you've got a website you don't love, you've got a brand you're not committed to, but you're pushing it out there and you're figuring out who your audiences are, and you're generating some sort of money as quickly as possible to validate what you're doing.
Excellent. So lots of opportunities to be made in this. Anyone else want to add to that? Okay. We did get a comment in from Anna. Thank you, Anna, for commenting in. She's looking forward to hearing about how the founders organically built their user base. I would love to hear from Julie on that. What has been your strategy so far on building, I mean, not users necessarily because you're selling an actual physical product, but your customer base?
So at first, since I had a retail, at first it was just, trying to attract more local clientele. So for that, I was doing some advertising, flyers. I also have a website where you can shop. So I'm trying to do like a coupon code. I try to do some promotions as well with co-working and businesses. Trying to promote as well on Facebook, Instagram, trying to be more present over there. Trying to showcase my product. I mean, what really worked for me was like trying to build a clientele, a local clientele by, doing the flyers, promotion. That was what worked for me because I'm selling a physical product. So the way was like trying to attract people to come to my store, trying to gain more and more good reviews on Google and on Yelp as well, which is super important because you have a ranking. And when people are typing optician Miami or optician downtown, I was able to get a pretty good ranking and pretty good, reviews. To me, it's super, super important. And I'm kind of, rewarding people when they write a review. I'm giving them, promotion or offering them a gift or, trying to get a loyal clientele and trying to get people to know about my store, know about my products. It's really trying to make it work, and word of mouth is super important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are great tips. I'm wondering, for my clarification, is there an opposite of a non-organic building of a user base? Like, what's the opposite of that? Just because I don't know if there is or not. Are we always building it organically, or is there another way that we can build it?
I was going to say, I was assuming maybe she meant paid, like paid channels is not exactly organic.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I would say, we almost never start organically because it's very hard to kind of build that momentum organically. And because I like to kind of be very deliberate in terms of planning and validation and seeing revenue as quickly as possible, I almost always launch with a paid campaign. So I don't wait for organic buildup. I say, let's put $100, $200. You can test a campaign with $100, $200, $500, and see if people like what you're doing. And then once you get customers from there, the organic part is delivering a product or a service that they like so much that they're encouraged to share it with their friends and their network. So I usually don't do organic, but it's not, there are founders who are very good at building organic user base. And that's better if that's your skill set. But if it's not your skill set, just pay Facebook to do it.
Totes. Okay, great. No, I love that. Thank you for explaining and clarifying. I totally agree, and I appreciate you giving those numbers as well. That's helpful. We got another comment coming in. Anna is letting us know, yes, that is what she meant. So perfect. We've addressed that question. Please continue to chat in your questions for everybody. I want to talk a little bit about a wantrepreneur. It's a term I saw recently. What does it mean? I'm kind of concerned I might be that because I've just been working so long. I'm bootstrapping, so I think it's okay. Like, what's an wantrepreneur?
I don't know. I don't want to be the one that goes first all the time. But I kind of see wantrepreneur as kind of like a little bit of an offensive term.
Right?
I don't know if it is or not. I should probably look it up on like, I don't know, Urban Dictionary or something. But I look at it like kind of like they're saying they're a wannabe. Like they want to be an entrepreneur, but they're not. So I don't know if that's the official definition, but I don't like the term. I think it's
right.
rude.
Well, I think also it's the context that I saw it in was that it was for students, younger people who are like, when I grow up, I want to be an entrepreneur. So they're like, I'm a wantrepreneur. I don't really know what my business idea is yet. They don't really know how to even get started with it.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I think
that makes sense. There's actually a program right now, or a grant that the Florida Department of Education is trying to put out there. Uri, this might be something interesting for you. I don't know. I don't know kind of your space, but they are trying to bring entrepreneurship education into high schools. And they're trying to find organizations that can sort of lead that. And I think it'd be great. I mean, it's something that we were looking into doing an application, but we were a brand new company when this thing came out, and I think we might have missed the deadline. But I think something like that is valuable because you teach so many things in high school that I'm not going to say are not valuable, right? You learn a lot of good things. You learn history and science, but teaching entrepreneurship and sort of the principles that go along with that, which is like financial management and time management and being able to plan effectively. Those are skills that everybody coming out of high school would be better off having, So I really hope that that grant was, ended up going to an organization that's going to make a difference, because I think it'd be great to have that education at the high school level and give these, good term, entrepreneurs the tools that they need to make something happen when they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pedro, I'd certainly love to hear more about that. I'm going to age myself here and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I'm the oldest one on this panel. And I'll say that because I myself have a high schooler, and he's actually taking an engineering course, which they had never offered before, but he loves it and it's interesting for him. And entrepreneurship is certainly something, even, financial management skills, those kinds of things that are not typically part of the curriculum. Even like civics, which is so important these days, is not really taught anymore. Maybe we could do without like woodworking and shop and home ec. Maybe those are out the window. Fine, I get it. But like there are some skills that I think I agree would be awesome at the high school level, to have there. So that's really cool. That's awesome. And I would say also, I guess you could take this term wantrepreneur and look at it, in sort of the glass half empty or glass half full approach. And I think the wannabe entrepreneur, the negative approach is like they're saying they're an entrepreneur, but now it's like 20 years of being a rookie at being an entrepreneur, and it's just a rookie year every year for 20 years. That's no good. But the wantrepreneur, the idea that maybe you're working in a job or you're still in school or you're doing all these things to make ends meet, and that's okay, but you envision yourself someday down the road having your own business, being an entrepreneur, being successful in that mold of whoever your model is, a Sarah Blakely or a Jeff Bezos or whoever is that model for you, to aspire to that, I think is the positive way to look at that. And I think even though we all, there may be that fake it until you make it approach, the idea is that that's ultimately where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Anna's question. I'd love to mention something.
Please.
I think it's part of the essential recipe for startup success, since that's what we're talking about. She mentioned she has an MVP, she has a website, and she needs to start building a user base, but she's got very little capital. I think one of the first steps, and it's awesome, by the way, that you have an MVP and a website. Definitely would love to chat. Happy to give you some time and talk through where you're at, privately. But I would say one of the things that I highly encourage is at this point, especially where you are, MVP and website, start connecting with people that may be able to kind of help, right? So if this is it's a complicated topic because not everybody has networks. I think the network is really important, but start to plug into a network and if the plan is to build a user base and convince users to start using your product, take some of that energy to start talking to potential investors or angels or people who can introduce you to angels and convince them to use your product, right? Get some early ambassadors on there and let those ambassadors start to share your product with their networks. Again, I think if you're trying to build something and you're trying to make it scalable, you generally do need capital at some point. And the process of selling it to someone, meaning like getting someone who has a network to be interested in what you're doing, is a critical part of learning to be an entrepreneur. Because if you can't sell it to an investor, you're probably not going to be able to sell it very well to a user. And that sales, that being able to have that conversation and prepare that elevator pitch that gets somebody interested works both ways, investors or users or ambassadors. So talk to people, start to build a network, do events like this and ask questions just like you're doing. And, I would say connect with all four of us, because I'm pretty sure all four of the people on this panel would be happy to give you some advice. And if we know anybody, make some introductions and might be able to help.
100% happy to give feedback and advice. If you have your MVP or website, drop it into the comments. Let's throw it up there. We'll get some people checking it out right now. Okay. Thank you, Pedro, for acknowledging that. And Jorge's joining us. Shout out to Jorge. Looks like Jorge's got some really cool things going on as well. We want to support Jorge Cortez, a serial entrepreneur in the scene here in South Florida. Thanks for joining. Bit Basil, December 5th, Wynwood for our Miami week. Sounds great. I was just talking with a friend a little bit ago how this time of year I'd be totally gearing up, planning all of my outfits for our Basil. And now I just I can take a year off. So it's nice. Julie, Uri, I want to continue the conversation with maybe some of the key concepts, at least for yourself or that you've seen. Pedro, of course, chime in as well. To be a successful entrepreneur, are there key concepts that really should be mastered?
Julie, you want to grab it? And
Go
I'll
ahead,
jump in after.
Okay, sure. For sure, you have to be like a hard worker. You have to be patient. You have to be consistent, super important. You have to keep a good work ethics and great values. And to me, what is super important, you have to be curious and look what's going on. Look at your competitors. Super important. Be super curious. Look what's going on in the industry. Trying to, look at articles, website in your industry, do some trade shows, constantly look at new products, new technologies. It's very important. It's going to help you challenge yourself. And also, a thing that is super important to me is to surround yourself by, successful people, like kind of role models, people that can, help you out, give you some good advice, can help you out, and if you can accept the critics and take their advice, to me, it's very important.
That's such an important one to accept the criticism. And I think that I wish more people would be able to do that.
It's very tough, but I think it can help you grow and challenge yourself and, get a different vision of what you're doing and just, get your business grow and it's definitely going to help.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that's important about that within our startup community is that if people don't take feedback, criticism, whatever you want to call it, well, with grace, it makes it difficult for people to give it again. And because they're like, oh, I didn't like that reaction that I got from someone, I'm probably not going to give critical feedback again. So then the next entrepreneur that they cross paths with is not going to get that critical feedback that they need, even if they potentially can handle it with grace. So I always encourage people, especially when they come for Product Hunt, for our Pitch and Sips events, I would say, don't get defensive when people are telling you things. Just try to listen the best as you can, write it down, whatever, whatnot. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Julie.
I would
Uri,
say I would say 3 categories to me that are the most important for entrepreneurs and founders as they're growing their business, they're scaling their business, whatever it may be. Say number 1 is discipline. You have to have the discipline to make sure that your time is managed appropriately, that your people are managed appropriately, that the opportunities and the way that you're dividing everything that you have, and then that includes your own mental health and your family time, whatever else you have going on in your life. You have to be as disciplined as you possibly can be around those things. The second, I would say, is self-awareness. So that's knowing what you know well, what your skill sets are, what your strengths are, and what they aren't, and where you need to complement them with people that either are on your team or are outsourced complementary to your team, soliciting those opinions and getting a good sense of where that criticism is coming from. I would just, to Julie's point, I would caution that it is important to listen to the criticism and to accept criticism. It's also important to be able to let the criticism that you know that isn't valid go in one ear and out the other. At one point in time, in one of the startups that I was with, we had a once a week, all hands on deck meeting to talk about the product and the things that weren't working and all of that stuff. And we had, 8 people in this meeting, and there were some that were just complainers, and there were some that just wanted to gripe about whatever issue they had on the customer service side that week. So you had to be able to take some of those things with a grain of salt and say, this is a legitimate criticism. This one might be legitimate, but it's really not as important as some of the other things that we need to work on right now. So having that self-awareness of understanding how to navigate those issues. And then the third area is you have to be an avid, eager learner. You have to be excited about consuming information, whether it's about your competitors or the market or, what else is going on in the world, what trends are happening. I think a lot of people jumped into this PPE, world of trying to sell masks and trying to sell hand sanitizer and all of that stuff. And it's sort of a stopgap thing without really knowing what's going on in that marketplace. On the other hand, the learners, to Pedro's point from earlier, the companies that came out of the 2008, 2009 economic, downturn, which is not certainly the same as the pandemic, but certainly was a downturn. You had companies like Airbnb and Uber and Dropbox that came out of that and turned it into an opportunity because they were eager to learn and to figure out what solutions needed to be provided to the marketplace. And so I think if you have those 3 things, discipline, self-awareness, and the excitement about learning, that's the recipe for a phenomenal founder.
I love those 3 points. I'm sure Sabrina, our amazing live tweet intern, shout out to Sabrina, will be putting those into a fabulously packaged tweet. Pedro, would you like to add anything?
I think Julie and Uri kind of covered, I think coachability is really important. One of the things, investors will turn, they might love the company, they might love the concept, they might love the market, but if the team doesn't seem like they're coachable, that's usually a very big red flag. So that kind of goes to what they both said. I mean, for me, I like to point out that team is generally the biggest factor in success, right? So solo founders, statistically are just less likely to be successful. And that's something people know. So being able to I always say finding a partner or a co-founder who, again, it goes back to that salesmanship. Sales is there's tech founder. There's 3 types of founders. There's the one who builds it, there's the one who sells it, and then sometimes there's the one who raises the money for it, right? So the one who sells it has to be, the one who brings that team together oftentimes, because usually the builder, the tech co-founder, just is not that type of personality. They're focused on the building, but having a team that's going to win is probably generally the first or second most important thing when you're looking to launch a company. Next is market. So to Uri's point, being able to do research and spend the time. Don't get so focused on your product before you even understand the market. Make sure you understand the market in and out. Make sure it's big enough. Make sure that the problem you're addressing and the pain point is felt strongly enough that they're looking for a solution. And I think those are the main tips: your team, your market, and make sure that you've got that. If you're a tech co-founder, you should be building the solution. I don't necessarily love it when brand new companies, zero revenue, zero product, and they've got a tech founder who's hiring a team already. It's like, well, build something. Let me see that you can put something together. Personally, it's a personal thing. I like to see a tech co-founder build, and I like to see, the marketing or sales co-founder selling. And I see a lot of success when the teams are doing their roles.
Very good. Thank you guys for sharing those things. I want to segue that into this question. Should everyone become an entrepreneur, or can everyone become an entrepreneur? You master these skills. If you want to do it, can you do it? Can everyone do it? Should everyone do it?
Okay.
Yeah, I love this question. Sorry, Pedro.
Go for it.
Thank you. I love this question because I think it speaks to where we all are and what we do, whatever that might be. And I think if you view yourself as an entrepreneur, no matter what you do, you will be successful in that. Even if it is that you work for a team, if you're working in a hospital, a doctor, a nurse, a janitor, administration, it doesn't matter. You should have that sort of love and passion and desire to be the best you can be and to innovate as much as you can to make your job, whatever that might be, whether it's a job or you're working for somebody else, you're working for yourself, you should view that as if you're the entrepreneur of that job, of that opportunity, of that role. And I think the question of whether or not everybody should be an entrepreneur, I think the idea that everybody should try it at least, right? Like, we live in a world now where people can have multiple side hustles. People can be working a full-time job and have 2 or 3 other things that they're doing separate from that. There is literally no better time in human history than now to be an entrepreneur and to try new things and to do different stuff. I've often said to people in running sales teams and being involved in companies that I think every person at some point in their life should attempt a sales job, even if it doesn't feel natural to them. Because if you find out that you are good at sales, you can work in any industry, you can do anything. That is one of the most difficult skills to have come naturally to you. And the other thing is, I often counsel people that at some point in their life, they should work in a job where they care for other people, whether that's working in a summer camp, a school, or volunteering. Doing that and having the ability to have empathy for people around you and for others who are in different situations than you, and to be able to see that and empathize and recognize that, I think will also go a long way in whatever entrepreneurship or whatever role you may have later in life. So is that skill necessarily fit for everybody's psychological makeup? Maybe not, but I think that everybody should give it a shot at some point in their life.
%100%.
Yeah, I would, just kind of supporting what Uri says. I do think that it's a set of learnable skills. It's not like magic. Entrepreneurs are not magical or special or whatever. I think we learn a set of skills. So can everyone be an entrepreneur? I think yes. But I don't think everybody's necessarily cut out for it. A lot of people like the stability that often comes with, employment, and they like getting a paycheck on a regular basis, and they like health insurance, and they like being able to, to put food on the table, not worry about, making payroll. So it's a lot, it is very stressful. I think, anybody who's done it for any amount of time can certainly attest to that. And not everybody's going to like that situation. So I think anybody can learn to be an entrepreneur. I think it's learnable skills. It's not magic. But I don't think everybody is necessarily going to enjoy it when they get there.
Whew. Amen. Julie, do you want to chime in there? What do you think? Should everyone become an entrepreneur? Can everyone become an entrepreneur?
You can definitely, if you're a hard worker, if you're passionate, and if you're ready to be dedicated 100% to your project. But as Pedro said, it's not maybe the right fit for everyone because you have to be able to, handle a huge amount of stress, and you have to be ready for it. But I believe it's possible. It's possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have transitioned through these stages of everyone should do this. Entrepreneurship is so fun. I could do whatever I want with my day. And then it was like a year or two in, I was like, this is awful. Like, this is literally mentally taxing and exhausting. And I can't hang out with my friends anymore. No one should do this. And now I'm just full flat out. I guess before I was like, no one should do this unless they really, really want to. Now I'm just like, no one should do this. Don't do it. Stay at your job. I fully advise people to just completely stay where you are with your cushy paycheck. But that is not what this event is about.
No, it's Global Entrepreneur Week. Global entrepreneurship. Everybody should be an entrepreneur.
I'm just being real out here, guys. This is not easy all the time. It is not all fun and games. Okay, true. So for me, I'm bootstrapping the situation, which makes it even more challenging. And like Pedro said, I'm also a solo founder. I'm also a woman. I'm also a woman of color. So it's just kind of like, whoa, all this crap, all this stuff, all these challenges. What is your suggestion? Julie, did you bootstrap your whole thing? Did you get venture capital?
Yes, I used my own money to buy my inventory, get my equipment, get my office, everything. Yeah, I did everything on my own. I gotta say that it's a very stressful situation because it's a lot on your shoulder. It's your personal investment, especially if your family or husband is helping as well. So there's a lot involved. I would say that maybe if you can get investor, it's probably way more pressure, but I would say that maybe it's going to help you grow your business faster because you already have the money and the funds available. But I was not able and eligible to get a loan, so I had to do everything with my own money. But yeah, it's very challenging. But if you have the possibility to get a loan or get business angels or investors, I would try to recommend to go for that. Yeah.
Pedro, I mean, I almost feel like I already know what you're going to say because it's navigate.capital.
Well, no, it's tough. I mean, you've got to validate something before you can get capital for it, typically, unless you've got the kind of network that's going to give you money for an idea because they just like you, or you've sold, you sold your last company for $100 million. It becomes a lot easier to raise capital. But for most people, even if you are planning to raise capital, you still have to build something before you can get there typically, right? You've got to put a little bit of work in, and that usually means putting a little bit of money in. My biggest recommendation at this point is to have a plan and make that plan kind of like break it down into actionable steps and okay, 2 weeks doing this, did it work? No? Okay, great. Let's cut our losses. Let's spend another 2 weeks doing another test. Did it work? And focus on vision more so than product. There's a quote that I've been using like every single day recently, and I heard it a long time ago, but it was brought up to me again. And it's just so important to hear, is that first-time founders focus on product. They think if I just build this great product, it's going to, everybody's going to use it. It's going to be great. And they don't think about anything else, and then the rest of the quote says second-time founders think about distribution. How am I going to sell it? How am I going to get it out there? How are people going to see this? And also, of course, how are they going to react to it, right? So again, I've seen founders invest 6 figures of their own personal money, and it makes me have anxiety for them. I'm like, you've put all this money into a product and you really haven't validated it yet. It's very scary. So it's like, make a plan for, how do you get this thing and test it very early, right? And again, what I love to do with the founders we work with is we put them in front of people who invest in their space, and give them a realistic expectation of, hey, this is what we're looking for in order to make an investment, right? So sometimes that number, hey, we're looking to see 5,000 engaged users, right? So now your plan is not to build this thing that's going to make all this money, but it's how do we get to 5,000 engaged users? How do we make a product that 5,000 people care about and they're re-engaging with, and focus on the vision of why? One of the best stories is like ClassPass. When they first started, they had built this product, and the CEO wanted to have people be more fit, right? She wanted to get people out and working out and exercising, and she realized the first version of her product, it started making money, and the investors were starting to get excited. And she looked at the data and she said, this is not really, people are not working out more because of this. And she made the difficult decision to kind of cut that part of the business and relaunch with something that she felt was more geared to her vision, which was to get people exercising. By the way, the founder of ClassPass is amazing. I will read anything that she's in, highly recommend it. But my point is that she was so sold on her vision, right, and solving the problem of getting people to work out more, that it didn't even matter if she was able to drive revenue with a different thing. With the original product they had in mind, she pushed to build a different product that could fill that vision. So really understand what your vision is, and then what is the minimum viable product to kind of prove that vision and show that you're building something that meets that vision. And for that part, you've got to have some capital, whether from yourself, whether from being able to convince someone else that what you're doing is interesting, or a loan, which again is very scary. I did build my last two companies, bootstrapped from money that I had or didn't have, and it's a really scary proposition. But you want to limit it, make sure it's not going to break the bank. Don't put all your money into building a product. It's very scary. It's a very scary place to be.
Indeed. Okay, we've got literally just a few seconds left. Any shout outs from anybody for anything? How can people get in touch with you, etc.?
I'll go first. Happy to chat. I love working with early stage founders. I love meeting founders, whether it's in South Florida or wherever. You can reach me at navigate.capital or Pedro at navigate.capital, or at P. Sostre on any social media. And I definitely encourage people, build your network. Talk to people who can either give you tips, be coachable, be open to hear what they say, but also, to Uri's point, know that you're the founder for a reason and stick to that vision, even if somebody gives you advice. Otherwise, you've got to take it all with a grain of salt, and don't just get pushed around by what everybody tells you.
Julie, Uri, we're wrapping up here. Any last thoughts?
I'll give a quick shout to Miriam for putting this together. Thank you so much for allowing us to spend a few moments together and to drop some knowledge, learn a little bit, hopefully. I would encourage everybody to get to know the members of this panel. There's tremendous knowledge and tremendous talent growing in the ecosystem down here. And to have a founder like Julie and support system like Pedro and Miriam and myself, we encourage you to jump on it, jump on in, get involved, find people, meet people, open up that network. I think it's phenomenal. I think we're growing. I think we're on the national stage. We're starting to build a really nice presence of people coming here for our incredible weather, our incredible culture, our multicultural approach, for families, for young people, old people. It's got a tremendous mix, and no state income tax certainly doesn't hurt either. So, I encourage you to reach out. I thank you for putting this together, Miriam.
Absolutely. Thank you for pushing me to it, Uri. Julie, any last words before we close it out?
Thank you for having me. I had a great time, and same thing here. Believe in yourself. Networking is super important. It's the key, and everything is possible. Even if we're in a tough situation, there are still, I believe, opportunities for great projects and great entrepreneurs.
Indeed. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Continue to comment in your questions. I'm sure that Julie, Pedro, and
Sure.
Uri will be monitoring the comments of the recorded session. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much to the panel. Thank you, Navigate Capital, for supporting this event, and Venture Cafe Miami as well. And enjoy your rest of your day. Have a great night, and happy Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Thank you, Miriam.